Hi, welcome to Nasha's Art. In this video I'm going to show you all about how I do mark making. Mark making is a very relaxing art activity to do because there is no pressure. You're just exploring different types of marks that you can make on paper. You can use all sorts of tools to mark make, and when you mark make there are no rules to follow. In fact, the only rule is to not follow any rules. Just explore, experiment, and see what sort of marks you can create. Some of the most exciting things about mark making is that you can use almost anything to make marks. Found objects. One of my favourite things is to go and forage in nature and find things like this bit of palm husk, tree bark, a random branch, a seed pod that I've affixed atop this little piece of branch here. If you want to know how to make mark making tools like this, check out my video down below and I'll put an info card at the top as well. There are other objects that are great. Sponges, feathers are brilliant. You can use the top and the bottom for those. Really exciting. And of course you can use normal art materials. Charcoal sticks are brilliant because you can add sort of shading, and ballpoint pens are lovely because they add a very fine mark. Brushes, fat and thin, graphite sticks, pencils, thin graphite sticks and charcoal sticks. All these things are great. So I would stop the video now and go and have a forage. Find a few objects that are okay to use that you can mark make with, and come back to me in a little bit. When I'm mark making, I tend to use waterproof drawing inks as well as the graphite sticks and all the other things that I showed you before. However, you may not have or want to buy waterproof drawing inks. So I'm going to very quickly show you how you can make a sort of substitute for it using watercolor paints. So you need to put a little bit of water in first. You can see I've added some there. And I think I'm going to make a sort of rich brown. So you need to spend quite a little while in the paint picking up the colour, because what's wonderful about inks is that they are very, very bright. They're also mixed with, I think, a little bit of varnish, which adds a gentle shine to inks. You're not going to get that look with watercolour, but if you spend a little while in that colour picking up the pigment, you will at least get quite a rich sort of ink-like substitute. So you can see I'm patiently just pulling off the colour here, gently with my brush, and then I'm mixing it in the water until I feel that it's a sort of an inky consistency. So that's an alternative if you don't have inks. When you're mark making, remember there are no rules. So it's all about exploring what marks you can make. So think about using your tools in different ways to what you normally do. Hold them on the side like I am here. Try the back end and see what that does. And the aim here really is to just experiment and explore and try and make as many different kinds of marks as you can. It's quite freeing and quite relaxing to just explore and experiment without thinking about an outcome or how good you have to be or how good it looks. You're just experimenting. You can hold tools right at the end, and you can change the way you use them. You can do long strokes, you can do short wiggly strokes. Repeat them a few times to understand how they feel and what they do that's different to normal. You can layer them as well and try and see what that looks like. And you might find that there are some things that you like and some things you don't like, and that's fine, because this is all about exploring. Let's try some of our watercolour ink. How about a bit of tree bark? Let's see what that looks like. And experiment with what it looks like when the mark and the tool has run out of ink, as well as when it's full of ink, because that can make a different kind of mark, as you can see here. You can also decide whether you want to use your whole arm and make big round movements, or whether you want to use short sort of stabbing motions or movements, because they create very different marks. What about a brush? Normally when we use a brush, we hold it right nearish the tip to be controlled. This time, move your fingers back. And try using the brush on the side. Try dragging it across the page. How does that change the mark? Try holding it right at the tip and just pulling it. And take your time as you do this. There's no rush here. It's all about just enjoying the process. After a while, you'll get used to this feeling of not being in control, and you'll just enjoy each little step without thinking too much. Another lovely thing that you can do and use to inspire your mark making is to use music or even random sounds. Imagine that a sound might look a particular way. If you heard a bird call, what might it look like? If you hear a coin drop, what sound might that make? What would that sound look like if it had a look to it? What would that look be? If you want to check out my video for more info about mark making inspired by birdsong. I will put the video in the description below. One famous artist who was able to see sound was Kandinsky, and he had something called synesthesia, which is where he could listen to music and see shapes and colours. And so his artwork is very interesting to look at, because when he heard music, he also saw it. He could see a painting. So check out my other videos. I hope you've enjoyed mark making today with me, and I hope that it has inspired you to develop some new and interesting ideas in your own artwork. I hope you are able to like and subscribe. I'd be very grateful for your support, and thank you so much for joining me today and watching. All the best.